Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. Today we continue the FL Studio series here at BusyWorksBeats.com/FL Studio. Today we're going to go over Metro Boomin style. He's produced for top artists in hip hop, and he created his own name, which is really good to see a producer actually get the credit they deserve. Too many producers go by the wayside and, get under recognized, and that's part of his brand. He made sure he got recognized. So anyway, let's get started with the Metro Boomin sound. It all comes down to the drum rhythm. Everything else is experimental, like the sounds, like the instruments. It comes down to the drum rhythm. Let's open up our browser. We're going to stick with FL Studio stuff only. Let's go to packs, and if you've updated your FL Studio to FL Studio 12.2, you have the new folder for drums called Drums by Mode Audio, and we may or may not use those drums. But let's go to Legacy, let's go to Drums, let's go to Vintage, and these are samples from an 808 drum machine, which are very common in hip-hop. I'm sure you've heard these snares in some hip-hop records. So we're going to use this snare. We're going to open that up. We're going to use that hi-hat, and we might use that cymbal. Let's see what else we can grab. We're not going to use the kick, but let's see what else we can grab. I think that's about it. And the open hi-hat we might use. Okay. So now we have our samples. We just need a kick. So for the kick, we may go with, actually I think in the Legacy, let's go to hip-hop and let's go to kicks. That's a pretty good kick. Looking for a punchy kick. Now, not every kick is going to be punchy in the browser. Sometimes you have to mix a kick to have punch. But let's use kick number 1. That seems to have the most body that we need. Now, all I'm going to do here is turn up the out parameter, because the kick is so long. What the out parameter does is fade it out. So it creates a volume fade so that it seems like it's shorter. And short sounds sound more punchy. So that's our kick for today. Let's save this. And let's start with the drum rhythm. So the drum rhythm goes very snare heavy. Let's turn on our metronome. We're at 138 BPM. Let's start with the snare, and we're going to use the metronome as measurement. So it goes boom, clap, clap. So when we're in what's called double time, we're at a very high tempo, but the song sounds like it's half of that tempo. So it sounds like we're at half of 138. Okay, so 69 BPM. But we're really at 138 BPM, and that's based on how we program our drums. In short, double time means instead of the 2 and the 4, our snare is going to go on the 3 and the 7. Okay, so that's if you know how to count beats and bars. And at the end, the only difference here is I'm going to add another snare at the end. So now all we have to do is add the kick. So I want to go boom, ch, boom, ch, boom, ch, boom, boom, and we're going to have a double kick somewhere in here. So right here, I'm going to have it go boom, boom. So a lot of bounce. You can create drum variations if you want, okay? And you could do that by cloning your pattern and changing something about the rhythm, like leaving out that second kick. So now you have 2 different versions of the drum pattern. So let's go from pattern 2 to pattern 1 in the playlist. And we're going to use those as our main drums. And I'm just going to hit Control B to latch paste. You got to be careful with latch paste, okay? Because for certain reasons, you have to be aligned with the grid. So now we have to add a bouncy hi-hat. To do that, we're going to go boom, boom, boom. That's going to be our core rhythm. So that's our core rhythm. Now you can create variations on top of that, but they're all variations. So yeah, that's the core rhythm here. I'm going to create a variation just so the beat doesn't sound repetitive. We're going to clone that and add something or take something away. And I'm going to go pattern 3, pattern 4 in the playlist. So I just added another hi-hat in there. That's all I did. Now I'm going to do that one more time, and I'm going to make that pattern 4 unique and hit Control Shift, highlight both of those patterns, go to the top left, go to select source pattern, change that to pattern 5. Now in pattern 5, I'm going to create what's called a hi-hat roll. We have a tutorial video on how to do this on our YouTube channel for free. Let's right click, let's go to piano roll. We're going to find where I want the hi-hat roll, which is at the end. I'm just going to delete the extra notes, drag this out for however long I want the hi-hat roll to last, change my snap to grid to either a half step or a quarter step. I'm going to start with a half step, and then highlight the note and hit Control U. Okay, now for my hi-hat rolls, I like to add a little tail so it sounds imperfect. Then I like to slice it at a higher speed, like a quarter step. And it just adds an extra touch. That's just one of the things I do. So that's the dance rhythm for this track. Now what I'm going to do is turn down the levels here. So we need to send stuff to the mixer to control the level. Let's double click everything. Let's go to our mixer. We're going to right click, insert one, go to channel routing, route selected channel starting from this track, and just turn down the hi-hat. The hi-hat's louder than the kick. So let's turn that down. And it's okay to have the snare louder than the kick. Now let's start adding other stuff like cymbals. I'm going to add a cymbal on the downbeat. Very common trap cymbal. Let's go to pattern 7, and let's add that open hi-hat. So the thing about the open hi-hat is it lasts too long for what I want it to do. I want it to go tss and then stop. Let's go to what's called the envelope for the volume. Let's activate it. Turn the hold parameter up, turn everything else down. Now what I have to do is give this a MIDI note length in the piano roll to tell it when to start and when to stop. So I'm just going to pick out the spot where I want it to hit, but I'm not going to use it directly on that pattern. So let's right click, go to piano roll. And I want it to occur right here. And I only want it to last about that long. Now this is a little too early for me, so let's go to the sampler. Let's go to the wrench tool and turn up the time shift. So now it fits better in the groove. Let's go to our mixer and let's turn down that volume. So again, let's go back to the playlist now and move this around. So I don't want it to occur every single time. I just want it to occur every now and then. Now the cymbal to me is a little too early on the beat. So again, we're going to go to the wrench tool, turn up time shift. So it has a little lag behind the metronome. And what I like to do is write the music before I get into the sub bass. Now the sub bass, we're not going to use an 808. If you listen to Jumpman, it's actually a synth, or it's a very long 808. So we're going to use 3x OSC to do that. A lot of people think sub bass is complicated. The best place to start with sub bass is just to use 3x OSC, for example. Turn down oscillators 2 and 3, and just lower your coarse pitch down and start playing low notes, and you get a nice sub tone out of that. Now if you don't have speakers or headphones which can detect low frequencies like subs, that won't really make sense. Okay, so I have a subwoofer which amplifies those low ends so I can hear them. And that's how you get that low tone, called sub bass. So I'm gonna, I don't like starting with the bass because it really locks you in musically. So you got to be careful not to start it. I'm not saying don't always start with the bass, but you got to be careful what you start with musically. Let's keep this FL Studio native and let's go to GMS. And now I'm gonna create a belly type of sound. Actually, trying to think, do I want to do this with? Yeah, I guess we'll do it with a sine wave. So let's go to Banks, User, go to Default. That will reset the plugin. Let's change our first wave shape here to a sine wave so we get a very smooth tone. Now what we need to do is give this characteristics of a bell. So we need to give it a short decay, just like if you pluck the bell, you don't hold the bell down, you just hit it, and it has a nice tail to it. So we're going to turn the sustain tone down, turn the release up. And that creates the kind of bell curvature. Now, there are many different characteristics to a bell. I'm not going to get into all of them, but let's add a little white noise. So it has somewhat of a scratchy tone. Now I'm going to add some effects to this just to kind of make it bigger. So let's go to our mixer now. And I'm going to activate some Fruity Delay 2, put it on ping pong mode. We're going to set the pan width to full pan width and the timing here to either 2 or 4. I like 2. Now if you want it to be like Jumpman, it's very on the beat, so you want to go to 4 at that point. And now it's bigger. Now let's open up Fruity Reverb 2 to make it even bigger. Let's widen out the stereo image. Cut out the bass, up the decay a little bit. And now our bell sound is very big. Let's pull down the fader. You can do more things to it. One thing I'm going to try here is I'm going to move these down, hitting D when I highlight the left arrow. We're going to open up Fruity Blood Overdrive because I want to saturate the sound. Or you could use Fruity Wave Shape or whatever you want to use. I'm just going to turn up the preamp here. Be sure to turn down your post gain when you do this. With the Blood Overdrive, it takes it from a sine wave to more of a pulse wave shape. So you got to be careful there to understand that you are changing the wave form. So it makes it more of like an EDM pluck more than a belly sound. So too much preamp can do that. Only gonna add a little bit. So now we need to come up with something repetitive but not boring. So here's where we're gonna use that bell as a background tone. So I'm just gonna use the notes F, E. So it's gonna go F, E, E. Make sure we're lining up with the grid. Go to snap to grid, half step. And I'm just gonna have that repeat. F, E, E, and just have that repeat. Sometimes it's okay to repeat in hip hop, but you just gotta be very careful not to get musically locked into a box when you do those repetitive things, because it makes other things feel out of place when you wanna do things musically. Now for this sound, I'm gonna go to the wrench tool, turn up that time shift. So it's a little behind the grid, fits in the groove. One more thing I'm gonna do is add a little bit of a low pass filter. So let's add up parametric EQ2. Since it's a sine wave, it's very frequency focused. But since we added a reverb, you can see there's extra harmonic activity or noise in the background. So let's add a filter to that noise. And this muffles it a bit. And with this curvature, it doesn't take out the tone. It just muffles it a bit. Now let's come up with a sound just like that, but just a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna clone this. It's gonna run through the same processing chain. I'm gonna hit Control C, Control V to paste. Now this sound, I want it to have a longer attack, have a longer decay. And I'm gonna change the wave shape here to maybe more of a saw wave. Let's switch this out. And here I'm gonna widen out the stereo and pull up the voices. So it's almost like strings. Let me take this out of this. So we have the attack, the long attack. We get that string kind of sound. And that's the sawtooth with multi-voice, detuned. We're gonna pull that up to actually 40% detune. Okay, so now we have like a stringy type of sound, and that's just gonna be layered. Run through the same processing chain. So I just want to pull up the volume and maybe lower the attack. And also you have a built-in filter, low pass filter. So it makes it bigger without overdoing it. So let's go to a new track and let's add that sub bass. Now with the sub bass, you can get pretty creative here. You can add your own flavor. So I'm going to add my own style. I'm not going to, you can get pretty creative with sub. Now it's hard to hear low frequency. So what I suggest you do is work in a higher frequency so you can actually hear what the bass is doing, and then you can lower it down in frequency, because the weird thing about sub bass, you can play a tone that sounds perfectly musical in a higher octave, but when you change it to a lower octave, it changes tone. It's the weirdest thing ever. Like, it sounds like a completely different note, because the frequency is so low. So I'm going to produce the bass in a higher octave first, and then lower it down later. So I'm going to go bum, bum, bum. So we're going to do octaves. That's going to be the bass line. Pretty simple, but we're stretching different octaves. Now what I'm going to do is pull these down an octave, hitting Control down. And literally have that repeat. Now you can make the melody more exciting than duh, 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 duh. But a lot of those hip-hop tracks are very repetitive. What I'm going to do is use that wrench tool for the strings and delay it a little bit to fit better in the groove. One thing you can change about the track to make it less repetitive is the bass line. So let's clone that. Let's have the bass line change over time, so it's not just the same thing over and over again. So again, we want to pull it up an octave so we can actually hear the tone. And you want to hear it in context, so you want to hear it along with the rest of the track. So I want to go dun, dun. Let's change it up. I'm going to go down a half step. Now this is out of this quote unquote scale. But that's for tension. Now let's pull everything down with Control down. Or one thing you could do is clone pattern 9 or make it unique and just pull everything down an octave like these. That half step might not work out, so let's get rid of the half step. Let's do something else there. Now again, the bass can be a little early too, so let's go to the wrench tool, turn up that time shift. Everything's about the groove, meaning everything has different time starts and stops. So those differences in times create the groove. One thing you can do to very repetitive sections like this is open up the filter over time. So what I'm going to do is modulate the or automate the filter curve. So let's right click, create automation clip. And if it gets too repetitive, you can automate the filter, almost like if you're doing FM synthesis. Sounds aren't changing in tone, they're just changing in the harmonic richness. So we can do that here as well. I'm gonna pull this over. And then you can clone that. I'm just gonna clone that shape so we don't have to keep doing it over and over again. But that's the effect here. So we're going from a closed filter to open, back to close. Let's add a background tone to kind of fill up all the dead space in the background. A good background tone to start with is a sawtooth. So let's open up GMS. Let's go to Banks, User, Default. Let's open up the sawtooth. Pull up the voices here to 4 to 8 or 2 to 8. The stereo. Let's detune them. Now they're nice and blurry as far as their pitch, so it creates a nice lush sound. Okay, so we have a nice thick sound. Also, what you can do in GMS is do FM. We're gonna do 2 to 1 FM. So we're modulating a sawtooth by, I'm gonna switch this out to a sine wave. We go over FM synthesis at busyworksbeats.com. For premium members. I'm gonna switch this out to a sine wave actually, and see what kind of sound we can get. So FM is the type of sounds you hear. You're trying to figure out like which wavetable it is. It's probably FM synthesis. So this is based on harmonic. So low frequency modulation gives you a lower frequency, and then higher modulation gives you that higher upper harmonic activity. So it sounds like we're opening a filter, but we're not. So that's what I was talking about. So I like to use this as a nice automation point. So let's move that knob. I don't know, you probably can click direct. Let's click direct, go to create automation clip, and let's have the modulation go up over time just so you can hear what happens to the sound. And I'm just gonna hold a tone, and that tone is gonna be the root note, which is gonna be F. It's gonna hold the note F for however long, I guess 8 bars. I'm not sure where I put that automation at. Let's add this into the playlist. Right click, get a pattern where we at 12, add that in. I did it too long, but whatever. And let's turn down the volume. So it's going in the background. It's just an atmospheric tone. I might actually switch this to E. So it's just something that evolves in the background if you listen to it. I'm going to take the voices down so it doesn't have this weird wobbly effect. And we're going to modulate that differently every time. So I'm going to have it kind of swell up the first time and then do it a little bit faster the second time. And I'm going to run this through reverb so we kind of blend it in. The fruity reverb too. Turn the wet level up, turn the dry level down. That's the key here, to blur it out a little bit more. So now it's more of an atmospheric tone at this point. And it's not so in our face. It's more of a background effect now. Slow for you, you can always pull the dry level up and the wet level back down. So that fills in that gap. It's more than just adding reverb, you're adding a tone. And the thing about this tone is it's only stereoized when it runs through the reverb. semitones in the bell to play along with the melody that goes dun dun dun. So we have a little more movement. So let's play higher octaves. So we're doing dun 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 dun. So it's like a downward arp in higher octaves. So we're contrasting the low frequencies with the high. And here you can't hear the F, so I'm gonna get rid of it because it sounded pretty cool. And in my mind, I didn't hear it at first, and I heard a mute there. So we can add that high frequency energy for a little more energy, I should say. Add the high frequency for a little more excitement to the track. Let me turn off the monitor so you don't hear all this extra bass. We can hear just the headphone mix. Now over headphones, the life is not the same if you just compared it to the speakers. That's a mixing issue though. Let's have this build up into somewhat of a song. I'm not going to do this completely into a song. But what I'm going to do is get rid of the drums in the first half and take out the bass. Get rid of the cymbals. Just let the song kind of build up. I'll play it once more, but then the next step is to record in the mind of the artist. And I might do a Drake / Future kind of freestyle just to go over top of it. But that's what you want to do to all your beats to give them a full song idea.
Tired on this money chasing European. Future Hendrix, European. Got the top the wheel look like it's European. Tired on this money chasing European.
Drizzy signed the Cash Money, now look what happened. Platinum, 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 platinum. I ain't got a problem while you throwing jabs in. Young and talking, but I be the only rapping. How you supposed to come up if you getting shot down? You ain't got a problem cause we dropped the pop style. How you supposed to drop it? You ain't in the rhythm. Drizzy got the only one that's in the prison. Pause. European, drop the top, that's European. European, drop the top, that's European. European, drop the top, that's European. European, drop the top, that's European.
have it. So the next step again is to record in the mind of the artist, and there you have an FL Studio only plugins and showing you how you can use the native sounds to get modern hip hop styles. So you don't need 1,000 plugins to get started. If you want to learn more, you can go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio, and in that series we use only FL Studio plugins. And there you can join now for the project files. So go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio. When you sign up with your email, be sure to check your email for a confirmation email. And once you confirm your opt-in, you will be sent your downloads. And in there, you'll see the project download for here and other bonuses. So thanks for watching today. It's busyworksbeats.com.